I'm Daniel. I'm 29, born and raised in the Midwest, now living on the East Coast. And this is the story of how my engagement ended long before the wedding ever could. When my fiancée, Olivia, and I got engaged, it wasn't some grand public show. It was just us, on a quiet evening in my small one-bedroom apartment. We'd ordered takeout, sat on the floor, and talked about our future. The ring was simple, exactly her style. She cried, hugged me, and said she couldn't wait to build a life together. For a while, it felt easy. We started planning the wedding in small pieces. We argued over invitations, laughed over cake flavors, and sent Pinterest screenshots back and forth. We talked about where we'd live after the wedding, how we'd decorate, even which side of the bed we'd claim. I thought we were moving in the same direction. The night everything changed didn't look special at first. I had just finished washing dishes. A sitcom was playing softly on the TV. Olivia sat on the edge of the couch, her hands folded, the engagement ring catching the light. "Can we talk about something serious?" she said. I dried my hands on a towel and sat across from her. She took a slow breath, eyes steady on mine. "I've been thinking," she said, "about us, about marriage, about how I want my life to look." That didn't scare me. People think before a wedding. Doubts, stress, all of it is normal. I told her she could say whatever she needed. She nodded like she'd already decided. "I want my own place," she said. "My own life. My own space." At first, I thought she meant before the wedding. Maybe a short break from planning. Maybe she wanted a month with her parents to recharge. So I started to say something, but she kept going. "I don't want to live together full-time when we get married," she said. "I want my apartment. You have yours. We meet up, spend nights together, travel, do stuff as a couple, but I still go home to my place. I need that for me." I just stared at her. Not angry, not yelling, just quiet. She went on. "It's not that I don't love you. I do, but I need my independence. My space. I don't want to lose myself in marriage. This is modern love. You know? We don't have to follow old rules." She talked about boundaries, personal growth, mental health, protecting her individuality. She said sharing a home felt too heavy right now, but still wanted the wedding, the ring, the commitment. She didn't want to share a home, but she still expected me to share a future. I listened, trying to understand. We had talked about money. We had talked about kids someday. We had talked about cities, neighborhoods, even what color couch we wanted. And now, months before the wedding, she wanted separate lives tied together by a ring and a ceremony. She saw my face and added, "You look upset. I just don't want us to end up resenting each other. I need to do this for me. I think it'll make us stronger." The way she said it sounded like a script she'd already rehearsed. I asked her when she started thinking like this. She said, "Recently," but her eyes flickered for half a second toward her phone on the coffee table. A small, simple movement. I noticed it. The rest of the night felt off. We talked logistics, like we were drafting some strange contract. She said she'd start looking for a place for herself. She used that phrase a lot. For myself, for my own growth, for my personal journey. By the end of the week, she had an apartment picked out. By the end of the month, she was packing her things into neat boxes, labeling each one. I watched her fold clothes we had picked out together. Plates we had bought as ours went into her box, not mine. Every taped corner made me feel like another piece of our life was being sealed away. As she zipped up her suitcase, she looked at me and said, "This is the right thing. You'll see. We'll be better for it." She kissed my cheek, grabbed her keys, and walked out to find herself. The ring was still on her finger, but as the door closed behind her, I knew I was already losing her. Later that night, after she left, I noticed a folder on the coffee table. A rental packet. Her name on a lease application. Dated weeks earlier. She hadn't just decided. She had planned this. Without me. The first week without Olivia felt strange. The apartment looked the same, but everything in it felt temporary, like I was living in a waiting room. Her toothbrush was gone. Half the closet was empty. The couch cushion she always sat on stayed untouched. She texted me the night she moved into her new place. "Made it here. Just settling in. This is good for us." I stared at the message for a long time and typed back a simple "okay." I didn't want to start a fight. I wanted to see where this was going. I wanted to believe she was telling the truth. For a while, we kept things polite. She'd call every few days. She'd say she was adjusting, learning to feel like herself again, enjoying her freedom. She used that word often. Freedom. I tried to keep calm. I kept going with work, workouts, errands, normal life. But something felt off. Her tone was different. Colder. Shorter. Almost like she was checking in out of obligation, not affection. After 2 weeks, she stopped calling at night. She said evenings were her time to recharge. She didn't want to merge routines. We weren't even married yet, and somehow we were living like strangers. One night, around 11 p.m., I called her just to hear her voice. She didn't pick up. She texted instead. Can't talk. Busy. Busy with what? She lived alone. She had no one there. At least, that's what I believed then. Another week passed. She stopped coming over. She canceled a dress fitting. She skipped a cake tasting we had scheduled months ago. She kept saying she needed space, but it sounded less like space and more like distance. Finally, she suggested we pause wedding planning. Just temporarily. She said she wasn't ready to make big decisions. She said she wanted to let things breathe. Her ring was still on her hand, but the commitment behind it was fading fast. One night, my friend Marcus asked how things were going. I told him everything. How she moved out, how she wanted separate lives, how her behavior had changed. He listened quietly and then said something simple. People don't pull away like that unless there's someone or something pulling them in another direction. That sentence stayed in my head for days. I didn't want to snoop. I didn't want to become paranoid. But I couldn't ignore the signs. The early lease date. The shift in her tone. The late night, busy messages. The sudden independence. So I did something small. I checked her Instagram. She hadn't posted anything new, but I noticed she started following someone she used to know years ago. A guy named Ryan. Old friend, old photos, old comments. Nothing alarming on its own. But then I noticed she had liked almost all his recent posts. 2 days later, she stopped answering my calls entirely. Not just once. For 3 days straight. On the 4th day, I decided to drive by her apartment. Not to confront her. Just to see if she was okay. Her car was there. Lights were on. I sat in my car for a few minutes, trying to decide if I should knock. Before I could, someone walked out of the building. Ryan. The same guy she'd reconnected with online. He wasn't just visiting. He punched in the building code like he'd been there plenty of times. He carried a bag, overnight clothes, and headed to the parking lot. A second later, Olivia stepped outside. Hair tied back, casual clothes, no hesitation. She walked right up to him, smiling like she hadn't smiled at me in months. She hugged him. Not the kind of hug you give an old friend. I didn't move. I just watched them walk to his car. She got in on the passenger side. He leaned close and said something that made her laugh. They drove off together. In that moment, everything became clear. She didn't want space. She wanted freedom, with him. And that was the moment something in me shifted. Not anger. Not panic. Just a quiet decision. If she wanted her own life, she could have it. But I wasn't going to be the one holding everything together while she lived a double story. I didn't confront Olivia that night. I didn't run after the car or call her. I drove home quietly, sat on the edge of my bed, and thought about everything she'd said, the space, the freedom, the modern love. Now it all made sense. She hadn't been building a separate life for growth. She'd been building a separate life for someone else. The next morning, she finally texted. Sorry I've been distant. I'm figuring things out. I stared at the message. She was still pretending. Still acting like this was some personal journey. I replied. Take your time. It was short. Calm. No hint that I'd seen anything. She sent a heart emoji. Nothing more. That told me everything I needed to know. She didn't feel guilty. She felt comfortable. She thought I was still waiting, still loyal, still patient. So I decided to stop being the guy who held on while she drifted away. I spent the next few days thinking clearly, not emotionally. I wasn't interested in yelling, begging, or asking for explanations she'd never give honestly. I wanted the truth to come out in a way she couldn't twist. I wanted her choices to speak for themselves. And I wanted to walk away on my terms, not hers. First, I called the venue. The deposit was under my name. I asked about cancellation. They told me I'd get most of it back if I canceled soon. I filed the request that afternoon. Next, I paused every wedding-related order, flowers, catering, invitations. Everything linked to my account stopped. The refunds started processing. Then I went to the jeweler. The engagement ring was paid for by me alone. I asked about a return. They couldn't take it back, but they offered to buy it for a fair price. I accepted. I didn't want to keep it sitting in a drawer like a relic. Every step felt steady, quiet, controlled. Olivia didn't notice any of it. She wasn't asking about the wedding anymore. She wasn't checking in about plans. She was living her new life, wherever Ryan took her. Meanwhile, I talked to Marcus again. I told him what I'd seen. He wasn't surprised. He just nodded and said, if she wanted out, she should have said it. You're doing the right thing. Hearing that grounded me. I wasn't acting out of rage. I was closing a chapter she had already abandoned. A week later, Olivia finally called. Her voice sounded light, almost cheerful. Hey, she said. We haven't talked much. How are you? I'm all right, I said. Just thinking about the future. She paused, like she didn't expect that answer. I've been thinking about us too, she said. This space has helped. I feel clearer. Clearer. That word stung a little, but I kept my voice calm. That's good, I said. Clarity's important. She seemed relieved that I wasn't asking questions. She talked about personal growth again. She talked about how she wanted us to take things slow. even though we were supposed to be weeks away from finalizing wedding plans. Then she said something that silently confirmed everything. "I'm spending more time with friends lately," she said. "It's helping me reconnect with parts of myself." Friends. She used the plural, but I knew exactly who she meant. I let her talk. I didn't interrupt. I didn't hint at what I knew. I just listened, then ended the call politely. After that, I sent one more message, this time to her parents. It was respectful and simple. I told them we were postponing the wedding and that Olivia needed time. I didn't mention Ryan. I didn't accuse her of anything. I wanted the truth to surface on its own, and it didn't take long. The next day, Olivia posted a photo on her private Instagram story. She must have forgotten I could still see it. It was taken from inside a car. 2 hands in the frame, hers and Ryan's, resting close together on the console. No caption, just a blurry sunset through the windshield. I didn't screenshot it. I didn't forward it. I didn't need to, because now, everything was lined up. The refunds were processing. The venue was canceled. The ring was gone. The wedding was unwinding quietly, without drama. All that was left was one final step, letting Olivia discover the truth on her own. I was done, and she was no longer my future. I didn't rush anything. I let days pass. Olivia kept living her separate life, and I kept closing the door on the wedding one step at a time. Then, on a quiet Thursday morning, she called. Her tone had changed. Softer. A little unsure. "Hey, we should meet," she said. "I miss you." I agreed. We chose a small coffee shop near her new place. When I walked in, she was already there, hair tied back, ring still on her hand. She smiled like nothing was wrong. She leaned forward. "This time apart has been good. I feel more balanced. I think we should start planning again, slowly." I nodded once. Calm. Then I said, "There won't be a wedding." Her smile faded. "What do you mean?" "I canceled the venue," I said. "Stopped the orders. Returned the ring." She blinked, trying to understand. "Why would you do that?" "We just needed time." "You moved out," I said. "You wanted a separate life." "I respected that. I just followed your lead." She sat back, stunned. "You should have talked to me first." I kept my voice steady. "You made decisions without talking to me." I did the same. For a moment, she had no answer. She looked around the room like she needed something solid to hold on to. Then she said quietly, "I thought we were okay." I looked her in the eyes. "You weren't alone in that apartment." Her face went pale. Not angry, just caught. "I saw you leave with him," I said. I didn't need details. I saw enough. She didn't deny it. She didn't argue. She just stared at the table, hands shaking slightly. "It wasn't serious," she said. "I just needed comfort." I didn't comment. I didn't raise my voice. I simply said, "I'm not marrying someone who needs space for another man." Her eyes filled with frustration. "So that's it. You're walking away?" "I already did," I said. "Weeks ago." Silence hung between us. Heavy real. "Finally," she said. "I didn't think you'd let go this fast." I stood up. "You left first." I walked out without drama. No final speech. Just a clean exit. That was my revenge. Not anger, not chaos. Just leaving her to face the life she chose. Over the next week, the fallout began. Her mom called me, confused. I told her the wedding was off and that Olivia needed space. I didn't mention Ryan. I didn't need to ruin her image. She had done that herself. Word spread through our small circle. Friends reached out, shocked. Some tried to ask what happened. I stayed brief. We wanted different lives. Nothing more. Meanwhile, Olivia tried to reach me. Calls. Long messages. First she was calm. Then emotional. Then angry. "You're throwing everything away. We could have worked through this. You misunderstood." I didn't reply. Then, one night, she sent a short message. "Ryan and I are done." No explanation. No apology. Just that. I didn't respond to that either. But a few days later, I heard the full story from Marcus. Someone had seen Ryan out with someone else. A different woman. Laughing. Holding hands. The same casual closeness Olivia once had with him. He wasn't looking for love. He was looking for attention. Olivia had been a temporary escape, nothing more. She had walked out on a future for someone who never planned to stay. That was her karma, not from me, but from the choices she made. A week later, she showed up at my apartment. No warning. No smile. Just tired eyes. When I opened the door, she said one sentence. "I made a mistake." I stepped aside slightly but didn't invite her in. "We're past that," I said. She looked at me like she finally understood the weight of everything she'd thrown away. No ring. No second chance. After Olivia showed up at my door, things didn't turn into a dramatic fight. There was no shouting in the hallway, no begging, no long speeches. She stood there waiting for some kind of opening, but there wasn't one. I told her I hoped she figured out what she wanted in life, and then I wished her well. She hesitated, like she wanted to argue, but she didn't. She walked away quietly, and that was the last time we spoke face to face. After that day, something in my mind settled. The uncertainty was gone. The wondering was gone. I didn't have to replay anything or look for answers. Everything was clear. She hadn't just left the relationship. She'd checked out long before she packed a single box. The next few weeks were calm. I focused on my own routine again. I cleaned the apartment, rearranged some things, and took back the space that had felt empty for so long. It didn't hurt the way people expect heartbreak to hurt. It felt like I finally stepped out of a storm I didn't know I'd been standing in. Meanwhile, word about the breakup traveled naturally. I didn't spread rumors or tell stories. I kept it simple. The wedding was off, and we were going our separate ways. Most people respected that. But Olivia's side of things unraveled fast. One mutual friend told me she'd moved out of her apartment. Apparently, she couldn't afford the lease alone anymore. She tried getting a new spot, but the landlord rejected her application because she broke her lease terms early. She ended up moving back home with her parents for a while. The same woman who insisted she needed her own space now had the smallest space possible. A little later, I heard that Ryan was out of the picture completely. He blocked her on social media and stopped responding to her calls. He had never planned to build anything real with her. She was just a convenient distraction. When he left, he didn't leave her with a future. He left her with regret. That wasn't my revenge. It was just the result of her choices. My part in all of this was simple. I walked away before she could drag me into her mess. I let her actions speak louder than her excuses. One thing did happen that closed the chapter fully. Olivia sent me a long email. It wasn't angry. It wasn't dramatic. It was quiet. She said she didn't realize what she had until it was gone. She said she thought freedom would make her feel strong, but instead it left her alone. She said she never meant to lose everything. I read it once, then archived it. Not out of bitterness, just acceptance. I didn't need to respond. The real revenge was living a life she no longer had access to. Over time, I rebuilt my routine. I started going out more, meeting new people, and reconnecting with old friends. I didn't rush into anything romantic. I wanted to take my time and build trust naturally, not out of fear or loneliness. Eventually, I moved out of that apartment. Not because it reminded me of her, but because it reminded me of who I used to be. Someone holding on to something that wasn't holding on back. The new place felt fresh, quiet, mine. Months passed, and one day I heard through a mutual acquaintance that Olivia was trying to start over. She was looking for stability again. She wanted something serious. But people weren't lining up the way she expected. Her reputation wasn't ruined, but it wasn't spotless either. Some folks knew enough to stay cautious. The world didn't punish her loudly. It just made her live with the outcome of her decisions. As for me, I didn't hate her. I didn't wish her misery. I just didn't want her in my life anymore. The breakup wasn't a loss. It was a release. It gave me a future that wasn't built on half-truths and separate lives. And the most satisfying part? She got exactly what she asked for. Her own place. Just not the future she thought would be waiting when she was done finding herself. So that's where the story ends. Quiet. Clean. No second chance. No going back.